Jazzcast Pros.
Welcome to License to Love. I'm Lori McKnight, Executive Director of Families Thrive.
And I'm Veronica Black, Director of Program Services.
Together, our mission is to demystify the process of gaining your license to foster or adopt in New York State.
And to empower you with the tools, insight, and confidence to open your heart and home.
And here with us today is one of our foster parents, Tiffany Rivera. Tiffany has been a foster parent with us for the last few years, and I think a lot of children have gone through that home because the Rivera family have been just amazing foster parents, taking in multiple kids, sometimes several at a time, and have been working diligently to help families and children work towards reunification, something that doesn't always happen in foster care. So today we're going to hear from Tiffany and Veronica and talk more about something we have not discussed yet, which is what it feels like when you have to return the children, even though they may have been there for a period of time, what it's like to be able to work with the families, to prepare yourself and the children to return home, and the successes that they have seen. We find the Rivera family to be very successful in this area, so we invited Tiffany to talk about that today. So welcome, Tiffany.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Tiffany, can you tell us what the secret is? Because we know you've had a lot of experience with reunification and working alongside the, birth family.
I don't think there's really a secret, but for me personally, I think it's easier in the situations when we initiate contact in the beginning. The families that I have talked to on day one since their kids came to my home and we text back and forth and we have that open line of communication, it's a lot easier to keep that going throughout the process. When you get kids sometimes when that's not always possible or there's an absentee parent in the situation, it makes it a little bit more difficult. And in those situations, we kind of just do things with the kids to remind them of their families. We have one little girl right now that her mom's very inconsistent with visits, but she's getting older and she's always talking about her biological mother. She calls her by her first name. She'll tell me that she misses her. And then she'll be like, can we make a craft for her? And we'll make crafts and we'll make pictures and we keep a pile of them on the counter and she'll take them with her when she goes. But it's just one day at a time.
Just that little bit you just said already tells us how much you value building a relationship with the families. And even in those situations where there's not a consistent parent, you're guiding the children and making them feel as if it could happen and that we're still going to make things for mom. And I think that in itself speaks volumes. Something we wish families, our foster families, would all be able to embrace. And while you said there's no secret, there's certainly something that you are doing in your family to create this relationship. And you have had one extremely successful scenario with one of your earliest placements, the two little girls. And
Yep.
We see that you are still working closely with that family. So tell us more about that.
Yeah, I actually just talked to her earlier today. She's expecting again. But she has two little girls that I had the first one since she was 15 months old. I initiated contact with her mom right in the beginning. We texted almost every day. We would try to do Zoom phone calls, but it was a little complicated with a 15-month-old because she doesn't necessarily want to talk to a phone screen. But we made it work. And then she had a little sister born that I picked up from the hospital at 2 days old. I actually went and assisted with the removal process. The mom handed me over her newborn baby, and she hugged me and cried on my shoulder. And I took her baby home with me. It was a very difficult situation. We continued to talk and text back and forth. And then the two little girls got to go back home a little over a year ago now. And I still take them once a month, every other month on the weekends. Me and mom still talk. She calls me when she has parenting questions. She calls me when she wants to tell me she's pregnant again. I mean, she sends me videos of the baby's first steps. I mean, we have a really good relationship. And as a mother and a parent, I mean, there's a lot of things that, I don't necessarily agree with, the parenting style all the time. But at the end of the day, they're not my children. I am a supportive, loving person in their life that is trying to give the family the support that they need to thrive in the situation that they're in. And I think as foster parents, some of us forget that sometimes. And the goal really is just to help the family be the best family that they can be.
That is so beautiful to hear, Tiffany, because that's exactly what foster parenting is. We come into this, it's a temporary situation. It's not permanent like adoption. And so our expectation of foster parents, no matter how difficult, because we fall in love with those children when we get them, but the goal is always to help prepare everyone to return. And when we train families, Veronica, we talk about return and the challenges of it, especially when it's a year or two into placement. That can be very difficult. But what are some of the things we tell families when we're training them to help them be prepared?
Well, we make sure they understand that it's going to be difficult. It's going to be hard. And we would be lying if we told them that it wasn't. It's hard. You get attached. You take these children into your home and you end up loving them unconditionally and loving them as if they're your own, and you want to keep them. And it's hard to give them back. So I think in the very beginning, if our families, can connect with, if they truly connect with their feelings and the child and understand, what they're going through and all that, they would have a better understanding of why we say, the goal is reunification. Our youth, deserve to have more than one family love them, right? We all agree with that. That's perfect. That's the perfect situation to have two families that loves you. And Tiffany, you guys are a perfect example of that. You love those little girls and their mom loves them. They know when they're with their mom, they know that they could always go back to you and that you're going to always be there for them. And families need to understand that. And we have to set aside our own feelings and emotions and understand that it's more about the youth and the family, building that family, strengthening that family, getting that family to the point where they're equipped with the skills to successfully parent their children, right? So we focus on that during the training and just praying that, we have more families like Tiffany.
Well, and I think it's very helpful when they learn that from the beginning in training. And I think until you're in it, you don't understand. You can't express what you will or will not do until you're there. And once you're there, all of a sudden you're struggling with emotions over falling in love with the child and knowing that they're going back into something that may not be as maybe healthy or safe as it is when they're with you. But I think when foster parents talk to other foster parents, like you're such a good example of being able to be there for this mom, in particular, these two little girls, and now another one coming, and you're saying, we're still here for you. And even if that's not through foster care placement, you've built that relationship with her, right?
Yeah. I mean, for me personally, I think it's the more you learn about generational trauma really helps when it comes to look at the family, though, because if you take a step back and you realize that a lot of these parents were essentially the children that are in your home. They may not have been in foster care themselves, but some of them were. And some of them also grew up in the same style home that they're raising their children in. And it was learned behavior and it was passed down trauma. And the only way to truly break that cycle is to be there for the children and the parents. Like, you have to be willing to work with both of them or change never occurs.
That is exactly true. I love the way you're able to break that down and take a look at exactly how the children got to be in the position of being placed in foster care. And I think that's not just a valid point, but it's a crucial point for foster families to understand where the children are coming from. And I know we talk about it a lot with foster families. don't we, Veronica? We talk about the trauma and you can't do better until you know better. And there's not enough guidance for the parents. It's really just do these 3 things, check off the list, go back to court, and we'll try to give you the kids back. No one's there to continue guiding them. And when the children go home and the case is closed, now there's nobody there. So, Veronica, you've had a lot of experience talking to families about this, and we started out as an adoption agency, so it was hard for everyone to readjust that, okay, we're not keeping them all. We have to give them back,
And it's hard, especially when you get the cute little babies. But we have some amazing foster parents, and many of them are dedicated to working with the families and reunification. So that is a plus. But, switching over that mindset coming from being an adoption agency, that was a challenge, not just for our families, but for us also. It's like, okay, well, you can't help but talk about permanency, and goals and all that. And it's like, oh, no, the goal is not adoption. The goal is reunification. We have to continue to remind ourselves. And then also change our language. We had to change our language and make sure that the families understood that as a foster parent, your number one priority is to provide that safe, nurturing environment for that youth. And number 2 is to work in partnership with that agency and the birth family. So once we got the hang of it and realized that we were more than just an adoption agency, everyone fell in place and everything started to, work smoothly. And we came across an amazing family, the Riveras, and look at them. They have kids leaving, going back home and coming back just for visits and, not for placements, but visits. That speaks volumes. And when a kid see that you're willing to work alongside their birth family, that only strengthens your relationship with that child. They see you nurturing, their relationship with their birth parent. And that's big in the eyes of a child that's been removed from their family. And they want to go back home. They have to learn to trust and all that stuff again. And they're in the perfect home. They can trust you and trust that you will make sure that everything is okay for them to go back home. And I think that is, that's amazing. I'm speaking specifically to, Tiffany.
Yes.
Well, thank you.
Tell us a little bit about what it feels like. Tell us a little bit about what it feels like when that you've had one of the kids or a couple kids for a long period of time. Everyone's in love with them, and even though you're doing all the right things by working with the birth family and guiding them and supporting them and all the things we ask you to do that Veronica just mentioned. Tell us what it feels like, though, as a foster parent when because I kind of remember the day that you brought the children back, and I know that was not an easy day.
I don't think you can prepare for it. It's more like the self-talk things you do afterwards. You put on the face, you get through the situation. I've drove my kids. They're my kids too, so they're still my kids, I've drove my kids to their birth parents' house with all their belongings and dropped them off. And when they realize what's happening, I've had to turn and drive away with them screaming no at the top of their lungs. And it is heartbreaking. I mean, it's sad because they feel like you're abandoning them sometimes. And I mean, that's more the case with the younger ones that really don't understand. But now, a year later, when I've been in and out, they know I'm going to come back. They know I'm going to bring them back, like that gave them more stability. So there's not so much that feeling. But back then, it was very difficult. And I've had other kids that have gone home that, unfortunately I don't have contact with and I don't know how they're doing. And that's difficult to process sometimes too. But if you really pay attention to the kids in your house, when you sit down and talk to them, they're comfortable when they're comfortable talking to you about their parents. I feel like a lot of these kids to begin with don't talk to you about their parents. They don't feel comfortable talking to you. They kind of feel like you're trying to replace them. But once you get to the point in your relationship where you talk more about their parents with them and you facilitate the phone calls and the visits and stuff like that, and they feel more comfortable with you. I mean, I have 5 kids in my house in care right now, and 4 out of 5 of them will tell you that they do not want to live with me. We'll talk about it at the dinner table. They want to be with their parents, and they're okay saying that. You know, my little guy who's about to be 4, he thinks they're insane. He'll be like, Mom, can I stay with you? But I mean, that's the type of environment we have at the dinner table. Like, it's okay to want what you want. These kids want their parents. They want that relationship. And anything you can do to facilitate that is helping the growth of the child that you're caring for.
It's good when they say they don't want to stay, because everyone is preparing themselves. And we know they love being there. We've seen them. They're pretty attached to you. And if they had to stay, I know they'd be okay for sure. But just knowing that you've given them the open communication, the free rein to say what they want to say, to express how they feel. That's important. That is important for their growth. That is important for their understanding of the situation. And they go away believing that my mom loves us and Tiffany's okay with my mom and going back home, or my dad or grandma, whoever they're returning to. There's a feeling of, you're giving them a feeling of safety in that. So when they're experiencing loss and grief over not being at home, you're giving them that hope back. I love that. Have you ever felt like these are kids I was hoping that could stay? And
well, all of
how
them.
did you deal with that when they didn't?
Well,
yeah, that's probably
the
true.
2 that I had go home last was very difficult, especially seems there's no further communication. My husband reached out a couple times, and like the first time the dad did respond to him, and they reached out to like my nieces and nephews, the kids themselves, because they're like almost teenagers and they exchange phone numbers and stuff, but not directly to me or anything. And I have a lot of questions still. I worry still. I think about them often. I don't know. I think I slept a lot that day and ate a lot of junk food.
Listen, Tiffany, how do you prepare the kids?
Depends on the situation, depends on how much notice we have. Unfortunately, the discharge plans aren't always thought out enough, I guess I would say. And sometimes it's really quick. Normally it's a transitional period where, you know, we'd start a couple overnights, the overnights get longer, we talk more about it, you know, like we plan on moving home and we have a date. Those ones are a little bit easier because it's done in gradual stages. When it's faster, it's faster. I mean, there's not much you can do to prepare other than let them know that you love them and you're here no matter what. You know, my one girl that just left, she has my phone number memorized, and I know that because she told me it because it's on the emergency chart. I didn't give it to her. It's on the emergency wall at home. and she told me what it was, and, you know, so, and she knows if she ever needs to call me, I don't care how long it's been, she's going to call.
Have you had a child who was really insistent they didn't want to go home?
Not really. I think the majority of them all want to go home.
Yeah. Well, I mean, what we know, statistics show us, and, you know, the work we do in child welfare, that children do want to return to their parents. And the hard part is that sometimes they can let go of, forgive, forget all of the negative things that happened to them, even the traumatic things, because there's what we know is kids are always loyal to their families. And we should expect that. That's a good thing. But sometimes we send kids back and maybe there has not been enough change, and the kids are so accustomed to a traumatic or chaotic lifestyle that it's just what they want to go back to. And I think that's where we get concerned about whether birth families have the right supports. Are they connected? Are they ensuring the kids have a safety network? All of that, because they're loyal. That's at the end of the day, they're loyal to their own family.
Okay, so what it boils down to is the focus is reunification, right? We focus on working with the families and the agencies and everything, but we tend to forget, right, how this is going to affect everyone. And when I say everyone, I'm not just talking about the children, because we're so excited and happy when a kid goes home, right? That's the goal. But we don't really take into consideration how it's going to affect the family. Yes, I say, that you have to put your feelings aside. And I know that's hard, but we still have to remember that you do have feelings, right? So what about your children, Tiffany? Because you have children also of your own who are affected by this. How do you prepare them? How does something like this affect them when they get attached to the littles or to, the children that are in your home and then they leave?
That one's a little more difficult because they're little people feelings and they're still learning how to process their own feelings. All my boys are in therapy, not just for that purpose, but it's important to have someone to talk to. And we do talk about it a lot. And we also talk about how they feel during periods of time when they aren't with one parent or the other. Because, my house is a blended family. And I have 2 boys that live full time with their fathers that come here part time. And we talk about how they would feel if they couldn't be with their parents and stuff. So we just openly discuss it all the time, and the dynamic of foster care and what it actually means to give the kids the stability and support that they need in that moment. And I think that helps a lot because it's not just something that we're ignoring, we're acknowledging it, and they're allowed to have feelings about it, and we talk about it.
Because we don't want to forget about the children, and I'm not talking about foster children. We don't want to forget about the other children in the home. We have to make sure that, their safety and well-being is, at the forefront also.
We actually really spend a significant amount of time more and more. The state really encourages you to really take a really deep dive into a family that you're certifying and take a look at how will this affect your own children first, and how are your children doing even before you start bringing other children into the home. And I think that's such an important piece that can be easily overlooked. We're like, no, these are great foster parents. They got 5 beds. We are ready. We're ready. We're going to certify them. But we have to take a look at, and we knew that going into this with you, that there were some kids in your house, but it's important because if there's a lot of animosity or jealousy or, kids that can't get along, that disrupts not only your own home and your own family, but now it disrupts children who are coming into your home with trauma. And that could trigger children, right? And then some of those children have been through some pretty significant abuse, and it could have been by a sibling. So we look at all of these components. What kind of fit is this child for this family, or this family for this child? Because to disrupt so many people, it would not make any sense. That would be just adding trauma for everyone. And so I love it that you have those safe, open spaces. And I love it that you think about, are these the right kids for us? And you've said, I tried to give you a real cute little one, and you were like, nope, can't do it. That's not the one. He's not going to make it in our family, So, and he might just be hell on wheels for the whole family, right? And so I love it that you think that through. It's really important, and I think most of our foster families do. We're very transparent about what we're sending to you when we ask you to take a placement, but we are looking further into, and sometimes we miss the mark. It seems like everything will be fine. Maybe there's only one child in the home. And then we start putting kids in, and now there's 3 or 4. And now we're seeing that that one child is not handling this well. And when the focus becomes the foster children, your own children, your birth children, your biological children are not going to do well with that. So we're very attentive to that, and we're really focused on ensuring every family and child fit well together.
And Tiffany's good at balancing, right, Tiff?
It does take a lot of balancing and scheduling. I'm actually currently looking for a sitter for like 2 hours so I can go to a varsity basketball games on in April and May. But like we make it work. Like the boys know that I'm still their mom and I will be there for everything. And they actually enjoy all the kids in the house. If they know that my 2 girls are coming to visit, they're all here. Like they want to see the kids.
That says a lot about how you developed your own family to prepare them for fostering. I know there was a day when I said, what do you mean she's got 8 kids in that house? And that's a lot. And we try not to do that, but some were your own. I think half of them were your own.
Yes.
And yeah. So,
and just to the listeners, Lori, we want to make it known that they have a huge house. They're
yes,
not like
yes,
living
do.
in a 2-bedroom or 3-bedroom
right.
with 12 kids, you know?
And she already said her kids are, they're older, they're in and out, But we don't, let's never let anybody think we pack a house full because we don't. We only can certify for so many, and we only allow that many. It's so beautiful, because isn't that what happens when we have older children and maybe we've adopted younger, and then the older ones still come to the house to see the younger ones, and it's just one great big happy family, and that is beautiful.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Veronica, what else do we think that is important for the listeners to know? We're talking specifically about Tiffany's story and how well she's done with trying to build relationships with birth families. We know that the last 2 you sent home was a challenge to develop a relationship with that particular parent. It was very challenging. Parents can be very frustrated with the system. They can be angry at you, even though you did nothing but take care of their child. And they can be very almost possessive or territorial. Like, these are my kids. They're home now. We don't need you anymore, type of thing. So that makes it difficult when you don't get to hear about the kids or, see them again.
Lori, that's a great point to bring up. Tiff, how did you guys deal with parents like that? Those parents who were challenging. How did you guys deal with that?
I've only really been in the situation one time where the parents were very confrontational. For the most part, most of them have been really understanding. They're okay to talk to and everything. I have a few that went home around the holidays that their parents texted me the next holiday to tell me Happy New Year's and stuff, But their kids were only with me for a short period of time, so it wasn't like a substantial relationship that we built. And the ones that the parents are confrontational, I try to be very, very firm with the boundaries. Like, this is what I'm willing to do. This is the communication I'm willing to have. This is, what needs to happen. And because you have to be. And sometimes that doesn't work and doesn't help. And that's when we reach out to support staff, because you guys are there to support us in these situations. Ideally, I'd be able to talk to everyone's parents. But not everyone's parents are in the space where they can be accepting of that relationship. And we have to be willing to accept that too.
Challenging.
So, for our listeners, those who are interested in possibly opening their homes and becoming foster parents, this is a big part of it. Reunification. It's a big, big part of fostering. And you have to be willing to open not just your home, but your heart to, nurturing that relationship with their birth parents. So, Tiff, you guys are an amazing example. And I hope those who are listening and considering fostering are, going into it with an open heart and willing to, give their all, not just to the child, but the parents too.
Tiffany, what would you tell, or what do you tell people? Tiffany's bringing us some possible recruits soon. And so what do you tell other people who are looking into considering foster care, or even those who are in it and don't think the same way you do? What would you say to them, or what do you say?
I've had a lot of people inquire about foster care, and I encourage them all the time. If you're thinking about it, just do it. It's on your heart for a reason. You want to do it. Just do it. You don't have anything to lose. You have a lot to gain. And even with all the struggles that we've been through, even with the conflict that we've had, the majority of the parents are actually grateful. A lot of them tell you, thank you for caring for my child when I can't. Yeah. I mean, we've had over 20 kids placed in our home, and I've only had one confrontational parent. It's not always that way. And these kids, like, just the little bit of joy that you can bring to their daily lives. See, I don't know how many times I've heard, this is the best day ever. And we didn't do anything. Like, we went to the park. We had ice cream. I don't know. But, like, just simple everyday things bring them so much joy. And you get to be a part of that. Like, you really do get something out of the relationship as well. You just have to be willing to accept that you're not in it for adoption. You're not here to keep the children, to take over all those parental roles and stuff. You're here to be a support system in the process.
And we love it that you're recruiting for foster care, because what we are experiencing is a shortage, and we need foster parents. We need foster parents like you, your family, but we need families who will come in, and maybe they can't take 5 or 6 kids, and maybe they couldn't even imagine 20 kids passing through their home. But even for one, it can make such a huge difference. And so I really appreciate that you are able to speak to others and share your experience and the positive aspects of it, and even the challenging parts of it. And we're really appreciating your time here today and just telling us your story.
Well, it gave me a break for an hour. My husband's downstairs with all the kids. I'm locked upstairs in my bedroom.
Oh, okay. Because I'm like, where are they?
I know.
It's so quiet.
We couldn't get them both on because somebody had to watch the kids.
Right. Mm-hmm.
But we have
only
so
half
appreciated
of them are home right now, too.
Both of you. Oh, well, that makes it easier. Yeah.
But, we also want to acknowledge Louis, his husband. He works so well with the fathers. He does such an amazing job with dads. And I just, you guys are amazing. We just need more foster parents like you guys who are willing to not just love on the kids, but open your arms to those parents and nurture that relationship.
Yeah, absolutely. What nobody said was how Louis falls in love with the kids.
I know, right?
Mm-hmm. And we
he
know
has a harder
sometimes
time
I think
than I do.
Tiffany.
He gets very, very attached, and he is not good at the goodbyes at all.
Yeah.
But, I mean, he loves them when they're here. He loves every second that they're here, and he has to deal with his feelings afterwards. He has a harder time with that process than I do. Yeah. And I think that's just like, for one, I'm almost done with my KSAC, and I've just gotten to the bachelor's program to work on my social work degree. So I've had extensive training in trauma at this point, and he's still learning more about it. And I really, really think that makes a difference. The more you understand how it affects people's brains and their relationships, you have a different outlook on life and a different outlook on the process.
That's an excellent point. It is a good way to think. We try to train our families to really understand trauma. We're a trauma-informed agency, and we want them to understand that what that child's doing is not because it's not deliberate, it's not behavioral sometimes, it's trauma. It's a trauma response. Well, again, thank you, Tiffany, for being here with us. And we're very appreciative of you and your family and all that you do. Keep recruiting. Keep doing what you're doing.
want to thank our listeners again. And those of you who are interested in considering fostering or adopting, I strongly hope that you would consider Families Thrive, joining our team. You can visit us on our website, and that's www.familiesthriveinc.org. We look forward to joining you on your journey.
If you're curious, cautious, or already in the process, License to Love is your roadmap on this journey.
Every child deserves a safe, loving home, and we're here to help you gain your license to foster and adopt. Follow License to Love on the Jazzcast Pros Network, available wherever you get your podcasts.